Welcome to Court TV Live on this Friday morning. I'm your host, Julie Grant. We are in Massachusetts for the rape trial of Irish firefighter Terrence Crosby. This defendant is standing trial for a second time on allegations that he raped a woman in a Boston hotel. So let's talk about what will happen today and what this alleged victim will have to speak about on the stand before this jury. And let's also talk about what that's like to have to do that if you're a victim of rape. And let's talk about what it's like on the defense side if you have to cross-examine someone who is allegedly a rape victim. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Lindsay and the executive director of the National Center for Victims of Crime, attorney Renee Williams. Good morning to you both. Renee, I want to begin with you. Would you help us understand what it's like for someone who has been victimized in such an atrocious way to speak about those things before complete strangers in a very public, intimidating setting?
Sure. These cases are incredibly traumatic, and it's incredibly traumatic to have to relive that not once but twice. And for most rape victims, we have to remember that there was a retelling of their story multiple times before they got to the stand. And so not only is that traumatic, but in this case, I want to point out that this victim did everything that we encourage women to do. She had a rape kit done within an hour. I mean, within 12 hours, I think, but definitely very, very quickly. She's done everything correctly. She went to the police. And so I think to have a jury say to her the first time, we're just not sure we believe you, that also has to be just incredibly damaging. There's no upside for victims when they have to repeatedly tell their story.
Renee, thank you for that. Yes, for anybody wondering, this is a retrial. So we had a mistrial last time, a no verdict. Lindsay Richards, let me go to you, please. Tapping into your experience as a criminal defense attorney, that's not an easy job to cross-examine someone who is allegedly a victim of rape. What kind of approach needs to be taken in such cases?
Well, I will tell you, as a criminal defense attorney, tact and being patient and understanding and kind is important. You can still be kind and also point out inconsistencies or issues in the case on a cross-examination, and jurors do not like it if you are combative and cruel and aggressive, especially with the survivor. I also was a adult sex crimes prosecutor for about 5 years. And I will tell you, these are the hardest cases to try. And unfortunately, it really is all going to land on whether or not this jury believes this particular survivor beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's really going to come down to her testimony, as it does in the majority of these types of cases.
Lindsay, thank you for sharing that about your background. I was unaware, and so of course I have a follow-up for you. Tell us more. Tell us what makes these cases so challenging when you have two adults with very different narratives.
Well, consent is always going to be the issue in the majority of these cases. Unfortunately, here it actually doesn't seem like consent is the issue. It's whether or not he actually engaged in any sexual contact with her at all. But the DNA in this case is inconclusive. Essentially, there's two male DNA profiles, and one of the male profiles is insufficient to create an entire male profile. So we just know it's male DNA, but we can't say exactly who it is. So it's, the question that she's likely to get on cross-examination is there anyone else that you had sexual relations with, leading up to that night that could have been an alternative profile in this particular case? And so it really just boils down to if this jury believes her, because there's really not much else. that proves whether or not this happens, but the prosecutors can prove a case through the testimony of one witness alone if a jury believes them beyond a reasonable doubt. And in this instance, the state prosecutors are going to have to keep coming back to, why would she make this up? Why would she lie? Why would she go through this whole process of getting this exam if it's not true? And that's going to be their case. Now, the defense does have a strong case, to poke holes in this story and essentially say whether or not there's enough evidence.
Right. And dovetailing off of the last point you made, Lindsay, Renee, isn't it a lot easier for victims to say nothing rather than to go through a trial and go through the re-traumatization? Would you speak to how much courage that process takes?
Absolutely. And the statistics tell us all we need to know. It is so much easier for victims to not go through this, especially when there's no reason to. As Lindsay said, she didn't have some reason for revenge on this man. She is not going to probably later sue him for money. There's really no reason for her to go through this. And what we see with victims, I want to say it's 5% right now we know of cases that are even reported, like 2% make it to prosecution. There are so many victims that just choose to stay silent for a multitude of reasons, and that's not the wrong decision if that's what's best for you. But it is much easier to just take a backseat. Right. And I love how you qualified that, Renee, about, of course, whatever is best for someone personally. Everyone has different facts and circumstances. And of course, the bigger point is just that it's hard to go through and testify, and especially about something so horrific and personal. And that's really the main point I wanted to underscore. But my heart goes out to anyone who's in a position like that, and you must do what's best for you, and getting treatment and being able to live a fulfilling life is what's most important. I have some clips I want to play for you both here now. We have a clip from the state's opening statement and the defense opening statement to kind of give everyone at home a perspective on this new trial, what the theories we're going to be seeing at play are here. So let's take a look together.
Through her testimony and all of the evidence that corroborates it, we will prove to you that the defendant went into that room, raped as she slept, and continued to do so after she woke up and struggled to get him off of her. The defendant thought...
Not a single time did they find a trace of Did they find a trace of Terrence Crosby's DNA? Not inside her, not outside her, not on her clothes, nowhere. The only identified male DNA found came from the other person in that room that night, Liam O'Brien.
Okay, Renee Williams, want to really tap into your lawyer brain, kind of apart from the victim's advocacy. So looking at it, very objectively, just as an attorney, and you hear these two sides, what are some of the things that you're going to be watching for as we get ready for the big moments of the accuser's testimony coming today, and then what's going to follow with the cross that we know that's coming?
It's very hard for me to be objective, and I think you saw me shaking my head throughout the defense's opening statements. From what I can distill, right now the defense is saying that the prosecution just can't prove their case. They're not even saying he didn't have sex with this woman. And they seem to be infusing a little bit of doubt in saying, oh, she was drunk. She had just slept with his friend. And I think that leads to a larger conversation about consent, because the media has picked up and run with that. And I just want to say, morally and not legally, without my lawyer hat actually on, and I can't believe we're having this conversation in 2025, consent is very clear. There's not a reasonable person standard when it comes to consent. You have it or you don't. Consent cannot be transferred. If a woman is so drunk she can't form a coherent sentence, you do not have consent. Just because she consented to having sex with your friend, she did not consent to having sex with you. And I think that the law is very clear about that. But I think that what we see this defense attorney doing is trying to infuse that idea into the jury's mind subconsciously.
Such excellent points from you both. Thank you so much for the conversation. Renee, we need to let you go. National Center for Victims of Crime is where all the great advocacy is that you do. Thank you so much. For anybody who wants to check it out, crimevictims.org. Anytime donations, help, volunteering, all of it is welcome. Renee, thank you kindly. Lindsay Richards is coming with us as we dissect this case even further.